Okay, so we said that if we have one statement, it can be either true or false, right? So we only have actually two possibilities, right? So just like here, you have one statement, it's either true or false. You have two possibilities. Now look at here. Let's say we have two statements. We have P and Q. In that case, there are actually four possibilities. Okay? So, well, here we go. Let me write down. We have two statements, P, Q. We have four possibilities. Guys, when you have four possibilities, for half of them P is true, for half of them P is false. Okay? So, only focus on the case that P is true. When P is true, you have two options for Q is either true or false. Now just focus on the case that P is false. P is only false. When P is false, you have two options for Q is either true or false. Now we have four possibilities: true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Here we go. So we have four possibilities. For half of them, P is true. For half of them, P is false. Well, when P is only true, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. When P is only false, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. So we have four possibilities. So one is, look at that, true, true, then true, false, then you have false, true, and then you have false, false, right? Four possibilities. Okay. Well, negation of a true statement is a false statement. Negation of a false statement is a true statement. So you have a statement P is either true or false. When it's true, the negation is false. When it's false, the negation is true, right? Okay, let's say I have two statements P and Q, so I have four possibilities. For half of them, P is true. For half of them, P is false. When P is true, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false, right? And when P is false, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. So we have four possibilities: true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Well, if you want to show the negation of P, so not P, whatever you have for P, not P has the opposite value. So guys, look at the first one. Your P is true, right? Not P is false. When P is true, not P is false. Now, P is false, not P is true. P is false, not P is true. So a statement and its negation, they have opposite logical values. Here we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to the important statement that we talk about, okay? The statement P and Q is true if both P and Q are true. Otherwise, P and Q is false. So you have two statements, P and Q, right? We have conjunction and, combine them, P and Q. Okay, let's draw a truth table for that. Okay, here we go. You have two statements, P and Q. We have four possibilities. For half of them, P is true. For half of them, P is false. When P is true, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. When P is false, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. Here we go. Now we wanna show P and Q. Guys, this rule is very, very important, this statement. It tells you the statement P and Q is true if both P and Q are true. Okay, so for P and Q, that's the rule. If you want, okay, what happened? Okay, here we go. So for P and Q, guys, P and Q is true when both P and Q are true. Okay, so sorry, look at the first one. P is true, Q is true. It says P and Q is true when both P and Q are true. So look at the first one. P and Q both are true, so P and Q is true. Look at here. P is true, Q is false. So both are not true. One of them is false. So P and Q is false. Because it says P and Q is true if both P and Q are true. Well, look at the third one. P is false. So you get false. Last one, both are false, you get false. So the only way that P and Q is true is when both P and Q are true. Look at the first one. P is true, Q is true. So both are true, then P and Q is true. Otherwise, it's false. Okay? So here we go. So P, Q, you have two statements. We have four possibilities, right? True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Now look at P and Q. P and Q is true when both P and Q are true. Look at the first one. Both P and Q are true. Then, as you see, P and Q is true, right? Well, look at the second one. Both must be true. No, one is false, then you get false. Look at third one. One is false, then you get false. Well, last one, both are false, you get false. Okay? So P and Q is true when both P and Q are true. Otherwise, it's false. That's a very important rule. Okay? So here we go. Both P and Q are true, then P and Q is true. Right? For example, I tell you it's Sunday and John is working. Okay, it's Sunday, P, John is working, is Q. It's Sunday and John is working, is P and Q. Well, P and Q is true when both P and Q are true. If it's Sunday, it's true, and John is working is also true, then P and Q is Sunday and John is working is true. Okay, here we go. Look at this junction, or. The statement P or Q is true if at least one of the statements P and Q is true. Otherwise, it's false. Okay? I'm going to draw a truth table. We have P or Q. Okay. First of all, we have PQ, two statements, four possibilities. For half of them, okay. For half of them, P is true. For half of them, P is false. When P is true, we have two options for Q is either true or false. When P is false, we have two options for Q is either true or false. So the statement says that P or Q is true if at least one of the statements P and Q is true. At least one of them, okay? P or Q. Guys, at least one of them must be true. Look at the first one. Both are true. Perfect. That's true. At least one of them must be true to have P or Q true. So both are true. Perfect. That's true. Well, look at the second one. At least one of them is true. So P or Q is true. Look at the third one. At least one of them is true. So P or Q is true. But look at the last one. Both are false. You get false. Here is P or Q. The truth table for disjunction. Okay. We have P, Q. Right? So at least one of them must be true to have P or Q true. Okay? Look at the first one. At least one of them must be true. Both are true, right? Okay, perfect. P or Q is true. At least one of them is true. Second one, right? Look at the second row. At least one of them is true, so P or Q is true. Look at the third row. At least one of them is true, so P or Q is true. But look at the fourth row. Okay, both are false, so P or Q is false. Here we go, disjunction. For example, I tell you P, represents Mandy teaches gen ed courses and Q represents Mandy teaches physics courses. Okay, P or Q, Mandy teaches gen ed courses or Mandy teaches physics courses. Guys, this is true, P or Q, if at least one of the statements is true. Well, at least one of them must be true. For example, if I teach gen ed courses is true, then P or Q is true. Or if I teach physics courses, right, is true, then P or Q is true. If both are true, I teach physics courses and I teach gen ed courses, that's great. P or Q is true, okay? So at least one of them must be true to get a true value. Here we go. So, well, I'm gonna stop here and, well, we keep going, okay?